Empowering farmers with intelligence. EFL Ag Data presents to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the EFL Ag Data Podcast, where we bring you the latest trends and updates in the feed and livestock industry. And today we are bringing you Vietnam's corn imports, which have surged significantly. This topic has implications on the international trade, local agriculture, and as well as food security. And of course, to help us navigate all these numbers, we have him back, our resident market expert, Matthew Clark, to help us unpack the numbers and trends. Welcome back to the podcast, Matthew.
Thanks, Alvin. Yeah, it's great to be here, and we look forward to unraveling the goings-on in the Vietnam corn market, and also take a look at how it's affected by a much bigger global dynamic in corn supply.
All right, so let's just jump right into the data. Vietnam imported 5.74 million tons of corn in the first 7 months of this year. That's a 34% increase in volume compared to last year. But the total value only rose by 1.9%, reaching about $1.4 billion. Can you tell us what this is about?
Well, the factor behind it is a global decrease in corn prices. The volume is up, the price is down, and the net effect is only 1.9%. So this is a classic example of supply-demand dynamics fixing themselves in the international markets. So additionally, this trend sort of underscores what's going on in Vietnam. There is this strong growing demand for corn. It's a volume thing. Domestic production can't meet this demand. That's one of the factors here. And it's forcing the country to have an ever greater dependence on imported corn.
Yeah. Well, speaking of international markets, Argentina stands out to be Vietnam's largest supplier, accounting to 55.5% of imports. Can you tell us then what makes Argentina such a dominant player in this trade relationship?
Well, the first thing is they are a big producer. They produce corn on a massive scale. So they are equipped with all the logistics, the internal transport, port facilities to export large amounts of corn. So this is one of their big comparative advantages. In the first 7 months alone, Vietnam imported 3.19 million tons of corn from Argentina, and that's up 130% compared to the period last year. And Argentina is well equipped to handle these increases in volumes. Now, secondly, the production costs in Argentina are relatively low. They have a comparative advantage. So Argentina can offer very competitive pricing. So the average price of Argentine corn has been around $242 a ton, which is 25% down on the same period last year. Interestingly, corn prices coming down to pre-COVID or pre-2020 levels as well. So there's been a very good response on corn pricing in the global markets, which benefits Vietnam.
Yeah. That's a huge shift, but according to the data, it's not just Argentina. Brazil also plays a major role in this, supplying 27.4% of Vietnam's total corn imports. Can you tell us how does Brazil's position actually compare to Argentina?
Well, Brazil, I would say, in the Southeast Asian markets is somewhat of a secondary supplier on the corn market. They exported 1.57 million tons of corn into Vietnam during this period. So together, we see Argentina first and then Brazil. They're probably capturing some 80% of the Vietnam corn imports right now.
Yeah. Well, on top of these two countries, it shows that Vietnam also sources corn from other markets like Thailand, even Laos, and in India as well. So how does these smaller players fit into the equation?
Well, they're supplemental suppliers. You see, when India used to be quite a big corn importer, but now it's kind of imbalanced. Sometimes they have an excess. That excess will go on the world market. The same would be for Thailand and for Laos. So they are, I would say, opportunistic in nature. When there's excess volume, they can be supplemental suppliers. The volumes are small compared to Argentina and Brazil. They're not primarily set up to be exporters. It's more for local consumption. But there is some benefit to using these smaller supplying countries. Diversification of sourcing does help to moderate prices. Without these supplemental supplies, there may be spikes in the corn price, which of course is not good for the agricultural industry in Vietnam.
Yeah. Now let's look at the bigger picture, which the heavy reliance on imports. So, what challenges does this heavy reliance pose on Vietnam's agriculture sector?
Well, I think the big problem is sustainability of local production of food. The government will be concerned, as most governments are, about the degree of self-sufficiency in food production. Complete exposure to foreign markets worries governments, So there could be geopolitical tensions that would cause disruptions in the supply chain. Without a strong local base on food production, the country is exposed, and the government knows this. So it's about food security if the global supply tightens or fluctuates. When we say sustainability here, we're talking about ongoing production of food rather than sustainable agricultural practice per se. So another factor here is on Vietnam's domestic corn producers. Imported corn is more efficiently produced. It will undercut the local farmers, and it can lead to a kind of poverty cycle in the local agricultural industry, where reinvestment is not popular or possible, and this increases the long-term dependency on imports. It's a worrying situation. Yeah.
Well, speaking of local production, experts have actually suggested to boost the local production to counter this risk. What do you think then Vietnam could implement to achieve that?
Well, there's two ways forward. One sort of blanket way is by technology. Implementing technology, and the other is a common thing, is that government support is needed for this sector to add some stability and to keep the farmers growing the crops, to keep them reinvesting. So the kind of technology we'll be looking at is particularly new seeds, new agricultural techniques. We have to remember that a big limiting factor to crop production is water and water management and irrigation. And then, of course, training, the soft skills that go with the technology. On the financial side, there could be some government support like bottom pricing. To help the farmers anticipate and plan their finances. We might also see kind of joint ventures or partnerships between local farmers and the government.
Those were, I think we could say, actionable steps that we could do to help boost the local production. But let's touch on the implications of Vietnam's trade relationships with the suppliers. What do you think these numbers tells us about the future of global corn market?
Well, I think we've seen development over a few decades on the Argentina and Brazil establishing themselves as major agricultural producers. We can't get away from that. So Vietnam will continue to be dependent on the imports. So this does present some problems because there is a power dominance of these countries and a balance of trade problem potentially coming up. But developing countries are more and more turning to like specialized producers, Argentina and Brazil, to fulfill their agricultural needs. This is the theory of comparative advantage coming into action. So this creates opportunities for importers and exporters alike. But we have to be worried about sustainability of the local farming, has to be a concern. We have to be worried about trade dependencies too, because they could fluctuate.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about for sure in this, Matthew.
Hmm.
This was indeed an eye opening discussion on Vietnam's corn market and its implications on the global agriculture and the sector. Well, thank you for breaking it all down for us, Matthew. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Al. It was always great to share insights. I hope we managed to connect the dots for our listeners. Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the EFL Ag Data Podcast. If you enjoyed that discussion and would like to listen to more, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us in our LinkedIn and Facebook page. Stay tuned, stay informed. Until next time.